That's a good point.
No one would have been asking, where is Nico?
You're right. Nobody would have been asking where's Nico Harrison, but I don't know what his habits are on the road. Maybe there's a chance that he has taken the road trips with the Mavericks, and he didn't want to hide from the smoke, right? I actually like the move by him to go because it number one, it peels off the Band-Aid a little bit before Luka makes his trip back to Dallas.
Gotcha, yeah.
So he gets to do the stare down and all of that, in a more calm environment. Now imagine what's going to feel even worse. These 3.5 weeks and last night him getting cheered on by Lakers fans for gifting them a generational superstar, all of that is going to pale in comparison to when Luka and the Mavericks, it's a little Freudian. Luka and the Lakers make the trip down to American Airlines Arena in Dallas, and then Luka is pouring it on against you. Maybe Anthony Davis is healthy and it doesn't matter, and the fans in that arena are wearing Mavericks uniforms or jerseys and cheering for Luka along the way.
It's funny because that's going to be probably the highest ticketed home game that the Mavericks are going to have all season, which is going to kind of work against what those fans are trying to prove. It's like the opposite boycott that you saw the Oakland at the time Athletics do, where they were like, if you gave us good product, this is what we could do with our fan base, so we're going to give you all our money. It's like, who are you fooling here? Yeah. And now Mavericks fans are going to be so antsy, so anticipating to get in the building in Dallas to prove to their GM that they're mad at him. So here is $300.
Yeah.
Here's the food I'm going to pay for. I'm mad at you. Take my money. That's what's going to happen in Dallas when he does return back there.
I'm looking now. It's one of the last games of the season, April 9th. And let's just say if CCAT and I were trying to get 2 tickets, they'll be seated together. And, oh, my goodness. Oh, this looks like some NBA Finals levels crap. Oh, my God.
So this is Lakers at Mavericks at the tail end of the regular season, which we all know is kind of meaningless basketball these days.
This is, if you want to be 2 seats in the lower bowl at least, and I'm not talking about just courtside, lower bowl, I'm looking at 1,200. I'm looking at 638. I'm looking 763, 927. Those are the numbers for the lower bowl. In the cheap seats, CCAT.
That's where I'll be residing, yes.
For what would I would this is like you said, a meaningless regular season game. Maybe it matters towards standings for play-in seating or whatnot. Cheap seats, 240, 250. 350, 293. Like, these tickets are probably the high. It's going to be the highest selling game of the year for the Mavericks.
Yeah, we talk about hate watches. That's an in-person hate watch.
But it isn't, though. The weird thing is it's not even a hate watch. It is, you're going to love watching Luka play again in person. And you get to love to be able to just drive over and you don't have to go to a new arena. Like, I think for the next 10, 15 years, whenever Luka comes back to Dallas, it's going to be a love affair between the Dallas Mavericks fans and Luka Dončić, because the difference between this and the departure of LeBron James, and you think about even the departure of Dwayne Wade when he left the Heat, and I'm trying to think of Kevin Durant when he left Oklahoma City and went to Golden State. Those were on the player's volition. Usually a franchise superstar chooses when he leaves. He doesn't get shipped out of town against his will. So I don't think there will ever be ill will between Luka and the Mavericks fans.
Is there a comparison to this? I know we're already a month into it, but I'm trying to find something. This might be a whole new creation, a whole new phenomenon in terms of a fan base who is going to feel abandoning their basketball team because their basketball team shipped off their generational player.
Here, the problem with trying to find a comp to it is no player that has meant that much to a franchise has ever gotten, traded against his will. There's been times where there's been a disgruntlement and then a ruined relationship, and then the player gets traded. There's been times where you request a trade, and it takes some time, and then eventually they ship you out in the offseason. I literally cannot think of a singular time, especially in the National Basketball Association, where stars matter that much, but also really in the NFL and Major League Baseball, where it wasn't a conflict, but the player got traded because, it's usually a money issue to stay under the cap.
True, yeah.
In baseball, it happens because they can't pay the guy the extension.
Yeah, the Red Sox are a comparison, but again, basketball versus baseball, one player meaning as much.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts was a big head-scratcher why the Red Sox didn't hold on to that guy, and it's proving to be a big mistake.
Yeah. So, and again, is he hated by either fan base? No, it's not his fault. They were like, we are not going to pay you, and he ends up leaving. It's why I kind of excuse the Jimmy Butler situation. The only difference is Jimmy didn't play out his contract. Jimmy set out games. He gave a lackadaisical effort. He wanted to get paid. The Heat decided not to pay him. Now the Warriors are 5-1 with Jimmy. He's averaging 20 points, 5 boards, 5 assists. And I think the Heat are now, 1-6 since the trade?
I get my Heat updates from Evan Cohen tweets. Like, I just see
it's depressing.
Whenever they play, it's like another inexcusable loss from the Heat and then a paragraph. And it's like, all right, I'm not going to read it all. But I get the picture.
Yeah, it's not fun right now being a Heat fan. And if there's any solace you can take in it is you just hope that they can luck their way into a high lottery pick. Luck their way into the Cooper Flag pick maybe. Like if you stink so bad to where you fall out of the play-in and fall into the top 8 or 9 odds, you never know what happens. Maybe freeze that envelope, the spirit of David Stern.
And I'm seeing more like little details and tidbits of information as to why exactly. And we knew the weight issue. We knew that about how Dallas was unhappy with the work ethic.
Yeah.
Taking care of the body of Luka Dončić. And in The Athletic, I saw that they brought up hookah and beer.
Yeah,
they don't like how Luka was taking a liking to beer and hookah, believe it or not. They're scratching and crawling, grasping for straws, trying to make sense of their own decision and trying to explain it to the masses.
Here's what people don't want to hear. Here's what, and again, we got what people do want to hear, a great interview we have with Ricky Fowler that's going to be coming up. We're pitching to that. He's fresh off of the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches Pro-Am where he said they were hitting them great. He said it was the fastest Pro-Am he's played in a while.
Don't give all the details.
Our conversation, I'm sorry. Our conversation with him in a little bit, we'll pitch to that soon as we're out here at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium for some spring training action. But here's what people don't want to hear about the Luka Dončić and Los Angeles Lakers trade. It is a win-win for both franchises if you take the macro view of everything, right? And it's a win-win. It's an extremely big win for the NBA and the NBA fan bases at whole. I don't believe Luka, given the way that he was kind of holding his power over the Dallas Mavericks franchise, given the way that he was not responding well to even losing on the biggest stage, which was the NBA Finals, and not bouncing back the next year in extremely good shape, ready to rock and roll, I don't think he ever becomes a champion in the Mavericks uniform. I don't think it happens. And if it does, it's going to take so much building around him that now the way that the NBA has structured its new CBA, and I don't want to get into the intricacies of the salary caps and all the second apron stuff, but it would have been harder and harder to build a roster around him if you're going to give him the Supermax. If he's your singular best player and the fulcrum of your team, even things I saw last night proved to me why it would be really hard to win an NBA Finals with him, because he's still a bit lackadaisical on defense. He still needs to refine a lot of the edges about when it comes to being a pro, taking care of your body and giving the extra effort. And even last night, again, he gave the extra effort a lot last night. There were still some plays where he didn't get back, complaining to refs. He had a tech in like the first 7 or 8 minutes because he got fouled, which he was right. But you can't go running and boisterously, yelling at a ref like that. You're going to get teed up. You're going to cost your team points. So those issues still remain. The reason why I say it's a win-win, the Mavericks can now try and retool and refocus on what will be the future of their franchise instead of being in a Luka experience for the next 15 years where they're going to keep falling short. The Lakers and LeBron James and J.J. Redick, if Luka wasn't motivated back then, if he didn't get motivated from being in the NBA, if he didn't get motivated from losing in the NBA Finals, he's motivated by this trade, by a team and a franchise giving up on him and punting on him. This is good for basketball because one of the generational stars that we care so much about in Luka Dončić, now we're going to see the best of him. And if he doesn't give the type of effort and level of play that you need from a guy that will give you championships out there in the Lakers uniform, like if he doesn't do it and fulfill his potential, he was never going to do it in Dallas anyway. The best chance for us to see the best version of Luka is in the Lakers uniform.
And like every story, and this is the story